Read my wife's diary while she was in a coma. I'll never look at her the same again. My wife was in a bad accident a few months ago that resulted in her being in an 8-day coma. Obviously, when she went into the coma, no one knew at the time how long it was going to last. I was envisioning months, if not years, before she would ever wake up. If she ever did. It truly felt like I had lost her already. I was destroyed with grief and the weight of all the uncertainty. Every day that passed with no good news further plunged me into despair. We have been married for 10 years. We have traveled the world together. We are truly each other's best friend. I was seriously considering ending my life if they told me she was brain dead or just wouldn't come back from it. One night, I was in our bedroom and really going through it. It was probably the 5th or 6th day. I was emotionally and physically exhausted and drained from it all. Another day of no good news. I was laying on her side of the bed because it still smelled like her and it was comforting to me. She used to put on lotion at night before we got into bed, so I opened her nightstand drawer to get the bottle and saw her diary there. I have never gone through her things or her diary before, but that night I just wanted some peace of it. I don't know why I didn't just reread our old texts or something. I wasn't really thinking too logically. It's not an excuse, but it is what it is. I began to read her diary. She didn't write every day, so sometimes entries could be days or months apart. This diary started about 3 years ago. Very quickly I realized that almost all of the entries were angry ones. Angry about my female friends or social media followers. Long paragraphs about how they were home wreckers and ugly, talentless, or whatever negative trait. She would become furious if a woman followed me on social media or if we ran into a friend in real life. She wrote pages about these women and how she wanted them to die or have their lives destroyed. She was angry that I basked in all the attention and didn't remove female followers online. She was angry if a woman followed me and didn't also immediately follow her account because we are a package deal. Not that these homewreckers know any decency to respect that. She wrote long rants about how women know the nuances of social media interactions, and this somehow proved for certain that they wanted me and were actively trying to disrespect our relationship by only following me and not her. I need to stress that none of the women she was angry about have ever messaged me inappropriately or acted in any way besides a friendly manner towards me. These were high school or hometown friends mostly. A big common element many of them had was knowing or being friends with exes of mine. She raged on about how I should not be allowing them to glimpse into our lives, and she suspected they were reporting back to my exes. To be honest with you, the entries were very unhinged and angry. Then I read some entries about how she had messaged some of them from secret accounts. I am summarizing here, but basically over the course of 12 years she has messaged and harassed several women and subtly accused them of trying to sleep with me or disrespect our relationship. She pretended to be an anonymous person from our hometown and would tell them weird manipulative crap that would result in the person deleting me without ever telling me why. Like years of this. Any new person who added me and not her was immediately a problem. She made sure they knew it somehow in a way that would never blow back on her but still got them away from me. So much made sense. Friends who had ghosted me over the years. People who blocked me. People who didn't say hi in public anymore. It's not like hundreds of people, but definitely 10 to 15 examples where I just never understood what happened. I would mention these things to her and she would seem comforting. She would try to reassure me and then ask innocently if maybe they had a thing for me. Always non-threatening. Always saying something like, yeah, I've had some guy friends who did that. It turned out they were jealous of our relationship. I had to cut them off. It's just not appropriate to have them around knowing their intentions were not purely platonic. I never suspected anything. I just accepted everything she told me as plausible and even thought to myself how graceful she was in light of it. I'm not even covering half the stuff in the diary. There were confessions of just blatant manipulations of other people in their lives. There were also confessions of people she got fired by digging up dirt, like maybe a Facebook comment someone made about using substances and sending it to their jobs. There were also some normal entries. Basically things like trips we took and how much she loves me. Absolute night and day. She woke up from the coma days later, but had some mobility issues that are now mostly hammered out. I couldn't do anything. For months I've had to be the supportive, loving husband she knew before the accident. I've supported her through her entire recovery. I have had to act like I don't know any of this. All the while living with dread whenever someone adds me. Now I immediately remove them as a follower. I don't know where to go from here. If I'll ever actually confront her. I would like to think I'd have the stones to do it, but honestly, I doubt it.
My son has a new transgender girlfriend. I'll never forget how my husband reacted. I have 3 sons, 32, 28, and 26. All of them are very successful young men and are on their own. My oldest and youngest were always very outgoing and were party animals in high school and college. My middle son focused on his grades and future from a young age. He moved out the youngest into his own home. Anyway, my middle son had a bad ex-girlfriend. They dated since they were 17 and she cheated on him several times. My son never left because he loved her, but eventually he realized she was a bad woman who left her. But it took 8 years. Anyway, my oldest got married at 29 and my youngest is engaged. They give my middle son a lot of fuss because he's single, but I always say that his ex messed up his sense of love and confidence. They don't understand what he went through and my husband agrees. 6 months ago, he started dating this new girl that we just met yesterday. I was happy to hear that he found someone. She is very educated and smart, according to him. They have similar personalities and interests. Considering my middle is kind of a nerd, that made me very happy to hear. Anyway, I wanted to meet her immediately. My son said that she was shy and it would take her time. 6 months later, she told him that she is ready to meet us. So Friday afternoon, my husband decided to grill. Everyone comes over. Then my son and his new girlfriend show up. This beautiful girl walks in holding his hand and standing behind him. He was right, she was very shy. We all introduced ourselves and her name was Sadie. Sadie was quiet but said hi to everyone. She honestly associated the most with our dog that night. My sons go out and help their dad cook. My daughter-in-law goes out with my grandbaby, and soon-to-be daughter-in-law and she are best friends, so they go out together. I asked if Sadie would like to help me finish the sides and chop some stuff. She says sure. I just asked how they met and we had a typical conversation. Eventually, my middle son comes in and comes up behind her and pokes her booty. She gives him a really look and he grabs her and picks her up as they laugh. I say, put her down, don't be so rough on her. My son just says okay, puts her down and goes back out. I said, sorry, free boys. Sometimes they are a little too rough, but he is harmless. She said, I know he is. I used to wrestle with my dad and brother growing up too. I said, your mom let her daughter wrestle her older brother and dad? She said, well, I used to be a boy so I guess it was different. I froze. I said, what? Her face went snow white and immediate tears rolled down her face. She said, he didn't tell you? I went no. She said, I think I should.
What's your family's darkest secret? A couple of weeks ago I found out that my wife cheated on me 6 years ago. The way I found out is that her sister told me after going to visit her to find out how the delivery of her first child was. She confessed to me that 6 years ago my wife told her that she slept drunk with her best friend. In her words, my wife was very sorry. At the time she told me I was with my son, and immediately after leaving her house, I went to take a paternity test with him, fearing the worst. A week later I got the results and my fears came true. My son was not mine, and for some reason, I began to see the boy differently, more as an acquaintance than a son. With proof in hand, I confronted my wife at night when our child was sleeping. She asked me who told me and I simply told her that it was none of her business, although obviously, it would not take long to connect the dots that it was her sister. Well, that is not my problem now. Regardless of that, I asked her for a divorce, which is now in process. She was devastated. She swore to me more than once that nothing could happen to her, and that she has been faithful to me in body and soul since then. I felt bad the urge to insult her to avoid complications during the divorce, not believing the words she said, mostly blaming the alcohol instead of taking the blame herself. After talking about it, she threatened me saying that she would demand full custody of the child. I was so annoyed at that moment that I told her, okay, I don't want anything to do with something that's not mine, that she keep the child and I'll keep the dogs. After my words, she tried to convince me to take care of the child, and I responded. At that moment I exploded. I was so angry and I had held back so much the urge to scream that I just yelled at her to go and take her bastard with her. A week had passed since then, and she went to her parents' house with her kid. She has not called me since then. She left with everything and the half-asleep kid when I yelled at her, especially since it was the first time I really yelled at her. It sure affected her. I talked to my parents and my dad told me that I did the right thing and I shouldn't be raising something that's not of my blood. I agree with him. However, the pain is still there. I am currently seeing a therapist 3 times a week who told me that I had already taken the first step, which was to leave behind what caused me pain. It just hurts to know that my family no longer exists. Regarding why my sister-in-law told me everything, according to her, she felt guilty seeing me always happy with my son, knowing that he may not be mine, and the fact that we went to visit her in a moment of weakness caused her to completely break down. I don't know how true that is. I just know that right now I feel tremendous hatred for my wife and a feeling of pain and resentment for the child. Although it's just time to move on. My therapist recommended that I not see him ever again regardless of the child's feelings. I should focus on my own life. That the child is no longer my problem, is zero and accepted. The best part, not even 3 days later my ex came to my house and asked to come in. I went out and met her at the door. I told her that she was not going to set foot in my house while she was here, and if she was going to say anything, let it be at the door. She practically